Hello and welcome back to the Property Hustle. Due to restrictive government legislation on landlords, they say that the buy-to-let property investment market here in the UK is dead. However, in today's episode, I'll be interviewing a property investor who is not only using the buy-to-let investment strategy, but is doing so very successfully here in London. Before I get any further with this video, be sure to click the subscribe button below and click the bell icon as well so you can get notifications every time I post. Jeroen, welcome to the Property Hustle. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
So you are, in fact, I'm not gonna introduce you. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. You are a buy-to-let investor here in London, which a lot of viewers might think is impossible because of the way the market is.
It's completely impossible. You can't do it.
Stay away. Stay away.
No, there's no good deals here. You can't do buy-to-let. Honestly, I'm making it up. No, so I'm actually an HMO investor.
Okay.
By default.
By
actually.
default.
Yeah.
Okay. How does that happen?
Well, I'm really an old school buy-to-let landlord. I bought my first property in 2004.
Okay.
I completed on my 23rd birthday. I was a property owner in
Same
London.
as what? Oh, I was 23 when I got my first. Okay.
Start young.
Can I ask how many years ago that was?
Well, it was 2004, so that makes 15.
Okay.
So yeah.
Can't do the quick maths.
16 years ago, nearly.
16 years.
Yeah.
How much did you buy that for?
It was 123 and a half.
London?
In London, yeah. It was a studio flat, and it's on
Which zone?
It's on the same road as the Wimbledon Tennis Club. So it was a posh location as well.
125?
123 and a half.
123 and a half. And do you still have it now?
Still have it today.
Oh.
Can't get rid of the bloody thing. I tried.
Okay, cool. So, oh my God, it must be worth a few bob now? No?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
It's actually probably the poorest performing property in my portfolio, yield-wise and capital appreciation-wise.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So that was my first buy-to-let property. Bought a few more over the years.
Yeah.
To live in, and then I rented them out, and then bought the next one and rented that one out, and sort of hopped on the ladder like that whilst I was going through the estate agency career path, I suppose, from negotiator to senior negotiator to valuer to branch manager, all that sort of thing.
Okay, well let's pause there.
Okay.
Can we go back? And you were once an estate agent?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, how did you get into that? And then how did you decide, okay, actually, done being an estate agent, I want to be the landlord. I want to kind of go full-time into investing. Well,
I'll start with how I got into it. So I have a marketing degree. I got into business and marketing, and I thought, great, nice jobs available. I will get myself a marketing job. Failed miserably.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a job for love nor money. I tried both. Didn't work out. And someone said to me like, oh, you're quite chatty, why don't you try being an estate agent? I said, oh, they need to be regulated and stuff. Like, regulation, estate agents?
Not here in the UK.
No. Any Tom, Dick and Harry or Jeroen can become an estate agent. So I interviewed with a couple, and one was opening up a new office.
What agent did you start with?
It was Ludlow Thompson.
Okay.
They just opened up their Acton branch.
Yes.
It was a flagship office, 1,000 square foot, corner plot. They were desperate to get some people in, that's why they took me, obviously. And I took to it like a duck to water. I sold loads of stuff, and it was pretty good. Got a promotion pretty quickly, and then I actually transitioned from sales to lettings.
Yes.
I was really worried because I thought, oh, what if I suck at this? Like, I like selling properties, but rentals was like, it was even better because all you have to do is like, you show people around and you go, would you like to take it? And they go, yeah, it's the best thing around, whatever. I'm like, wow, okay, deal done. And do a bit of paperwork and away you go. And the beauty of working for them was actually that they had this IT system that was pretty much foolproof. Like you'd have to actually go out your way to do something dodgy to get it to move in stage without having EPC and this and that and the other. It just wouldn't let you print off the tenancy agreement.
Okay.
Before you had all the money, before we had all the references and all that sort of stuff. So it was foolproof. It was like learning on the job, and I'm like, wow, this is tick box exercise, right?
Yeah.
And my brain is very binary, so I'm like, right, okay, if everything on the list is done, then I can move in, right?
Yeah.
So do everything that's on the list. It's simple. There's no shortcuts. Done. So anyway, I was very good at ticking boxes, and I was the best box ticker in the agency, and I got manager's position, and then I taught other people how to tick boxes and call people up and pester them for viewings and show people through doors and go, would you like to take it? And that's pretty much as simple as it was until the downturn happened.
Yes.
And suddenly,
2008,
right? So I was working in the Lewisham office, and we were letting a lot of flats in Greenwich, especially Greenwich Millennium Village. Everyone was working in Canary Wharf. People were making a load of money. We were letting out these really plush penthouses and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And suddenly rents dropped by 20% because there was mass exodus in Canary Wharf.
Yeah.
Hard times ahead. So I got moved around a little bit from office to office, and then I thought, no, this isn't for me. I'm going to set up my own agency because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And no, I don't. So that was a learning experience. I wouldn't say I lost money, but I didn't really make any money either.
Okay.
But
through your own agency that you set up?
My own agency, yeah. So I had a business partner. He managed the sales side at Lewisham, and I was managing the letting side. We got together and we're like, let's just go out and go on our own. Let's do it. And a couple of years later, we just decided to sell up, and we got messed around by a couple of buyers and all the rest. Finally exited that, which was good. But you pay for experience, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that I lost money, but like I said, I didn't really make any money either. But I am richer because of the experience.
Exactly. And I imagine a lot of the stuff that you learned whilst running your own agency or as your days as an estate agent has been very applicable in what you've now gone on to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So over the years, I advised hundreds of clients like, look, this is the kind of property you want to buy because there's peak demand here. This is a great area. You don't want to be, outside of this zone because of that, or a school, or this or that. There's so many factors, and especially when you work in an area for so long, you become like a little expert of, a little fountain of knowledge on this little area.
Yeah.
And, you don't want to buy that street, you want to buy the next one up. Well, why is that? To the layman, they don't get it, but as an estate agent, you see hundreds of front rooms, and you know which ones are good and which ones are not.
Yeah.
So I was drumming up business for my estate agency. I started writing the Clapham Property blog, which
it's amazing.
It's
Follow
awesome.
it. Description box below. Click the link. Go to it. He writes some amazing pieces, and he's so knowledgeable. Like any new legislation that's out that you can't figure out or don't understand. Jeroen is your man. I got it right, I think. Yeah. He is your man, genuinely.
So I ran the blog, and then I met, who did I meet? I started going to networking events, because I thought I need to find more landlords for my agency. Where am I going to find landlords? I'm going to find them at property networking events, right? So that's what I was there to do. And I got picked up by the host, who was Trevor Cutmore, who ran Wimbledon Pin. That was the only pin meeting in South London at the time. Clapham, Wimbledon, all right, well, it's close. We'll make it work.
Yeah. You ended up living there.
Yeah, I lived there, yeah. So I'll come to that in a second. So we got picked up by Trevor, and he's like, well, come do the lettings update for me. I'm like, great, well, I'll do the lettings update because I know a few bits about lettings.
Yeah.
And that was great. And then people started saying, gosh, you know so much about property, you should do this full time. I'm like, well, I am full time. I run this agency, that's what I do, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you should buy a property and do it up. I'm like, well, yeah, I already do that. I have a few and all the rest of it. And then I thought, okay, let me. And then I started looking around, and on the blog, I would post a few good deals, and I get some investors picking my brain on it. I'm like, well, I'll just keep this one to myself. And I'd like to view it, please. And I remember this was the best negotiation tactic I'd ever used. And I went to see this particular flat in Camberwell, on the first day that it came on, because it fit my sort of criteria, right? It was ex-local authority, it was 3 bedrooms. I thought, great, because 3 beds, that was my thing. And I went to see it on day one, and it was on for $320, I offered him $290. Oh, no, that's like 10% under asking price. No, the landlord will never take that. No. I'm like, okay, that's fine. There's my offer. See you later. Anyway, I called him back 2 months later. It was still on the market. And I called up the agent. I said, do you remember me? He said, yes, I remember you. You were the first person to see it, and the landlord rejected your offer, or the vendor. And I said, well, how many viewings have you done? And he looked me in the eye and he said, oh, well, he was on the phone. He couldn't look me in the eye on the phone. He answered, he said 30. I said, so it's been on for 60 days and you've done 30 viewings. Now, is my offer the best offer that you've had? And he said, well, your offer is the only offer that we've had. I said, well, therefore it is the best offer.
Not a very good agent if he's telling you all of this.
But that's the thing, right? You've got to use what's at your disposal. And I could tell by his voice, he was tired. He was sick to death of this flat because it was ram-packed full of these tenants, and they had so much stuff, and there was mold growing everywhere because the air couldn't vent anywhere because like the stuff was stacked up to here, right? And anyway, I said to him, look, you got two choices. Either you go back to the vendor and you say, hey, this guy's still keen at 290, and or you don't do that and you keep it on the market for another 60 days and do another 30 round trips.
Yeah.
What would you like to do? He's like, I'm going to put the phone down and call there now. And we got it accepted. Because, he was motivated to get it accepted, right? But by that stage, you know, the owner had been through the whole rigmarole of, right, well, there's 29 other people that have seen it and 29 other people do not want it. Like, this guy had it. So
let's just get back to, so your strategy when you started off was finding ex-local authority apartments, flats, and then doing it up. How do you locate, or how do you find ex-local properties? Like, how do you know which ones are ex-local?
Well, ex-local authority flats, they're often not very attractive looking blocks. They were built as social housing by the government in the 60s, 70s-ish, like sometimes a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later.
Yeah.
But that sort of era, South London, 60s, 70s, purpose-built, the shared decking access, you can spot them from a mile away. This particular flat that I had seen was on the Wyndham estate, and normally, like, you know, the name of the estate is in the address as well, so that's a giveaway.
Yeah.
So these I think the question really is which ones are privately owned, which ones can be sold, and which ones are still in the hands of the local authority and which are social tenants. So the key to it really, either you can go direct, which means looking at land registry, and you download the freehold title and you can actually see which ones have a lease on them, and the mayor and mayor of Lambeth or mayor of Southwark or whatever, they write the lease and it says like which flat numbers have a lease on there, and you can contact the owner by then searching up their details and you can write to them. Or you can just do the lazy way, which is what I did, just wait for them to come onto the open market. Which is fine, because oftentimes it's a very niche market, the ex-local authority market, because there's not a lot of people chasing them. So what you find is that often they're in disrepair because the original owners are still in there, so the people that have exercised the right to buy, so they were renting the flat from the council for a long period of time. They're often not in the higher income brackets, so oftentimes they're pushed to sell because they get a large service charge bill or what have you, so they're unable to come up with 15, 20, 30 grand sometimes for repair bills, and they're like, well, we have no choice, we're going to sell up and move out of London or whatever. And sometimes they just move out of London, it just happens. So oftentimes they're quite motivated to sell anyway, because they're under this sort of pressure from the council to pay their service charge bills. So I wouldn't call it an automatic distress sale, but there's definitely motivation there. So for one, they're normally in need of refurbishment. Secondly, there's financial motivation for them to sell. And thirdly, because they're so cheap, they make great buy-to-lets, relatively cheap, obviously everything in London is expensive. They make great buy-to-lets because the acquisition price per bedroom is much lower than a Victorian or Edwardian flat. And that means that you might get 5 or 10% less rent, but the actual purchase price is 20-25% less. Your actual yield percentage is a lot higher than with private stock.
Cool. So then you take those and do you just refurbish it, or do you try and reconfigure to like increase?
It really depends. So that particular one was quite a small flat. It was 650 square foot, and it was a 3-bed. I couldn't really squeeze a kitchen into the lounge, also because of where the pipes were and all that sort of thing. So I just left that one as is. That was a straightforward refurb job. So I bought it at $290, and that got revalued at $380. So that was pretty decent. It didn't even.
How much did you spend on?
It was a 30 grand refurb.
Okay.
Yeah, small flat, so 30 grand.
So about 70k profit.
Yeah, well, profit is a big word. The grossest of gross profit. Take away stamp duty and my time and all the rest of it. But the other ones that I have, I actually managed to squeeze an extra bedroom in by moving the kitchen to a lounge. So like a living room, dining. Open plan kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah. So that works really well, because my thinking was, well, professional sharers, they don't often cook, they're not often at home, and all the rest of it. And as it happens, that rings to be true. They, they make a cup of tea or a microwave meal or what have you, but big kitchens and things like that, no. Family home's great, but sharers, they're always out. So they place much more emphasis on the size, the equal size of the bedrooms, and that's what I always found doing lettings as well. When you have a standard, like we're sitting in a 1930s house today, you have 2 big rooms upstairs and a box room. Well, the box room's always going to be the problem, because Henry, Freddie, and Albert, they all want to share together, but no one wants a smaller room, right? And then you go jig the prices of the rooms between each other, and it just becomes a headache. So 3 equal-sized bedrooms, that's ideal. I mean, they're never going to be exactly equal, but if you have 3 or 4 decent-sized rooms, then like the equalness of the bedrooms makes it highly lettable.
Cool. And so when you've done these properties up, do you then manage them yourselves, or do you get an agent to do it?
I manage everything sort of in-house, as it were. So I run a property management company now. So I stepped away from estate agency and letting for other people mainly. And I actually I bought up a rent-to-rent company. So I'm back to doing property management. I'm back to square one.
Gosh.
I've been a developer, and I've seen the bright lights and what have you. And development is great. I've taken a bit of risk. It's paid off. But I just want a simple life, so I just manage for other people.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been on Jeroen's podcast, and we were talking about how we're slightly different in that he's gone from development into rent to rent. I'm going the opposite way, from rent to rent into development. So when you say you wanted a simple life, were you attracted by the sort of, because I don't think rent to rent is not necessarily simple in terms of the amount of management that can go into it, but I guess you've systemized and you've got staff that work for you, and so were you attracted by the cash flow element of it? Like what kind of made you?
Well, they say cash flow is king, and I've been very lucky in that all of my HMOs, they're very nicely cash flowing. But one thing that has let me down over time is the revaluation. So I started developing these properties just as Brexit kicked off, and I remember my first one. It was a flip. I bought it in an auction and I did it up, and it was on the market and it was going to be sold. I had a buyer for 265, then it was June 2016, I believe, from memory. Brexit got announced, they pulled out. And I had to resell it, and instantly I had to take a 20 grand haircut. I've still not recovered from that haircut. So I thought, well, I won't be deterred. This Brexit thing is a storm in a teacup, as it always is, just like the congestion charge. People still drive into central London. People will still come to England and what have you. So anyway, we're 4 years down the line. This Brexit storm in a teacup is still brewing. And as a result, over the past 4 years, the properties that I developed, I made certain predictions as to what I'd get on the refinances. Some came off, and but as the uncertainty increased in the market, valuers were getting more and more conservative, and the residual values were coming down. So when I thought, oh, I've got a good deal, I can buy it here, spend this, and I'll refi it here, it was actually refining there. So I couldn't get as much money out as I wanted. So that really slowed my progress. And I thought, I don't want to take that risk again. I mean, we talked about developers losing a lot of money on my dad's South London podcast, and I don't want to be that developer that loses money. I mean, I won't lose money buying, refurbishing, refinancing, but part of that strategy is knowing that you're going to leave some money in the deal. Now, I was quite prepared to do that, but the amount of money you leave in the deal, if that keeps going up and up and up, the actual percentage return on your investment goes down. So I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So I stopped doing that and thought, well, I'll just build a cash flow business. So I've got the assets, and now it's cash flow. So rent to rent, and rent to say is what I'm into.
Cool. I love that even in, you know, the down market, or when things turned, like everyone was going one way, you went the other. You said, no, I'm going to keep buying through this and weather the storm. And you were able to analyze your deals in a way that you still were able to make profit. Granted, it wasn't as much as you'd anticipated, but it was still there. And I think it's so important to be able to actually know your numbers properly before you go into any of this.
Absolutely. Like it was painful taking a 20 grand haircut on that sale. So instead of, I mean, that one, we made 40 grand gross instead of 60 grand gross. So it's a third off the profit. That breaks it, literally. It cost me.
So you're diversifying your strategy now. You've gone sort of back to sort of the managing side of things. I understand that you're also taking on investors as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So as what I did with my HMO portfolio, so I put my own money on the line first to prove that what I could do worked. So put my money where my mouth was, as it were. And then I went and said, like, look at all these properties that I've developed. I've run out of money. Would you like to fund one? And I'll give you a set return. Oh yeah, great. And I had loads of people queuing up because I proved that my capabilities and my system worked. And I just did the whole cookie cutter approach to the council flat thing. And that worked. So I do the same with the rent to serviced accommodation model. Daniel and I, my business partner, we've taken on a couple of flats in E14. I know it's north of the river. I'm very much south of the river, but the numbers worked, right? So we went to visit them. it was a terrible experience going north of the river, by the way.
Don't do it. Unless you absolutely have to.
Unless you absolutely have to. It was, remember that day. It wasn't pleasant. Anyway, so we went to look at these flats. We put our own money on the line, took the flats. So we've got a partner who manages them. We look after the finance side of things. We create the deals. Great, it works. Next one comes along, we take that one. So we've done it once or twice, and then we had an investor on board saying, well, okay, well, Mr. Investor, you put in the money, we'll do a profit split. Yeah, great, that works. Okay. You put it on social media, you ping it out to your investors, and they go, oh, hang on, we'd like a piece of that. And that's a really low entry point because rent ends, SA, you're talking 5 or 10 grand in. That's much more palatable than like, oh, I'm doing a development, can you write me a check for 100 grand? That requires some serious duty. People can, still a lot of money, 5 or 10 grand, but people can afford to take a bit of a chance.
Definitely.
And you're never going to lose your money. You might not get the returns that you want. Would you rather like tie up 100 grand, or would you like to tie up 10 grand and see if it works?
And also, if you've got 5 grand or 10 grand sitting in the bank, believe me, it's going to make more money in one of your rent-to-rent SA units than it ever will in the bank. So, I'd rather put my money with you, an experienced investor that's providing you a decent return, than leave it in the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the sentiment that we have from investors. That they see us do what we do and like, okay, these guys are obviously on it. And they know what they're doing. And
exactly. I was like, when I realised that that's what you were doing, I was like, I want in. I'm 100% in. So if
this is not an advert, by the way.
No, it's not. But I would never advise investing with someone unless I completely believed in it. I wouldn't, So this guy, he's legit. Like, awesome. Look him up. Clapham Property Blog, Down to South London podcast. Facebook as well.
Yeah, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all that sort of jazz.
I didn't have you on Instagram until recently, actually.
Well, you don't know where to find me. it's Clapham Prop Blog because you can't. Too many letters. Yeah. So I renamed it down to South London anyway. It's easier to find.
Yeah. So could you briefly talk us through maybe your latest rent-to-rent SA deal? Like how you said it was in E14 you went?
Well, those were the first ones that we took on. We took those on mid last year. The most recent one, well, I've got one in Soho actually, as it happens. So that one's brand new. So it's a studio. It's actually going live on the 10th of March, I believe it is. But the one that we've taken on before that is a block of 3 just around the corner from Baker Street. Really popular. It's always full, basically. So we took on 3 one-beds. It's above a shop, just by Baker Street Tube, as you can imagine. Location second to none. And what we're finding actually is that those locations are working better for us because it's less management intensive. The 2 beds in E14, what we're finding is you get a lot of party goers and we've got to kick them out and do all that sort of business. So it's quite management intensive, which, you know, if there is a party, then my guys hang around for half an hour, wait for it to kick off, and then go upstairs and kick them out and keep their money. Because, hey, our terms and conditions say no parties, naughty, naughty. And then we'll relet it for the Saturday and the Sunday, so we'll have double bookings basically.
And then in terms of like the startup capital, does it vary quite differently in terms of location? I imagine something in Baker Street is going to cost a bit more to kind of start up and get running as an SA than something in E14 or even down in South London.
Funnily enough, the 2 beds in E14, they cost exactly the same amount as a studio in Soho. So we're at that price point where we're really comfortable and we can predict the returns really well. And as I said, because you get less people, less space, it's literally just used as a sleeping base, and people, they shop on Regent Street, Oxford Street, whatever, or go out in Soho, whatever they want to do when they come to London. But they don't throw parties because the place is too small. So it's a bonus for us because we're getting the same income, less headache, and the location's fantastic. The occupancy is off the charts. I wish I had more of them. So,
well, you will have more of them.
I will, yeah.
What's next for you in terms of the journey, or the journey. Property,
Daniel,
or elsewhere in life?
Well,
not everything is property.
Not everything's property. Well, I've just moved, so I've done up my house a little bit and just taking life one day at a time, I suppose. You'll appreciate that I don't want to take masses of risk anymore. Been there, done that, it's paid off, some more than others, and I'm like, well, just take it easy. So I'm building a cash flow based business. Rent to SA is a great model, and I don't see tourism drying up in London anytime soon. As long as the Big Ben is still chiming, or still standing. It didn't chime for a while, did it?
No, it didn't.
Funny enough. But we've still got bridges and landmarks and tourists and things like that.
So is your market aimed at tourists?
It is oftentimes, but you do have the 90-day rule in London. So a good proportion of the bookings will be long-term corporate lets as well. People flying over and all that sort of thing. So, because you've got to comply with the 90-day rule. Because heaven forbid that you rent out your property for more than 90 days in a year.
But how do they even? Do they actually?
Enforce it? Oh yeah. They send an inspector around. They have a national serviced accommodation database, and they knock on the door every day to say, no, absolutely no enforcement whatsoever. No.
Cool.
No.
So in life, you've just moved. You are really into your fitness, aren't you?
Yeah.
You cooked me the most amazing meal, guys. Like genuinely, it was a poke bowl.
Poke bowl.
Poke bowl, amazing. Chickpeas, spinach, avocado, rice, things that you wouldn't even think to put together, but they just worked. They really worked.
Apparently, it's a thing in Hawaii, so I just copied.
Cool. So, on the fitness side of things, can I follow you?
Ask away. What do you want to know?
So what are your goals in terms of your wellness and all that kind of thing? What's like, I think we were talking off camera and you said something, but I'll let you say.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I started this fitness journey like 2 years ago now. So I went from being 115 kilos in March 2018. And at the time of recording, we're nearly in March 2020.
Yeah.
So that's 2 years. I lost 25 kilos and 10 inches around the waist. So it's big loss, big change, obviously. And we talked about, and you showed me a video.
Oh yeah, no, I've gone through kind of a major change myself. For anyone that's been following me since I started 2 and a bit years ago, you would have noticed in terms of not just the hair being chopped off, but a lot of weight loss as well. Just being in the gym, just feeling healthy, feeling fit.
Well, that's the thing. I'm very fortunate to have the job that I have. So I go into the office 2 days a week. I've got my kids 3 times a week, but my Monday to Friday, as it were, is it's actually just Monday to Thursday, because I got work, kids, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is me time.
Yeah.
So I'm in a very fortunate position that I'm able to go to the gym 5 times a week. I know people that are in my circles that have done amazing transformations and also held down full-time jobs and international travel and all the rest of it. So I don't think that what I've done in terms of weight loss is anything spectacular. In fact, I've probably done one of the slowest transformations ever. But I think with anything in life, you've got to do what you enjoy, and you've got to make what you're doing enjoyable. And when I started the journey, it was a big shock to the system. Like, you know, I had a coach and he said, "Oh, you got to drop your calories to this." And I was going nuts. I was waking up in the middle of the night. I was hungry. I raided the fridge at 3 a.m. I've never done that before. I'm like, I can't do this. I got to eat more, and like just slowly, like lower the calories. And, because ultimately, it's just put the fork down, Fabi.
Exactly.
That's all it is. You got to either eat less or exercise more, or do both. But do it in a sustainable fashion. So people always ask me, "Oh, what diet do you do?" I'm like, "I don't do a diet. I just eat what I want." And like, you got to hit certain macros if you want to build muscle, and if you want to lose weight, just eat less.
Yeah.
As simple as that. Oh, but how do you, And then there's the tricks that come into it about eating, making food look bigger than it is, and eat lots of salad. Basically, there's no calories in salad practically.
Yeah. And
just eating popcorn instead of crisps, and simple replacements that will help you feel full without having all the calories.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the fitness wellness. Just to bring it back to property, so there are a bunch of people and a lot of people saying that the buy-to-let market is officially dead. To be fair, you've kind of moved away from that and are going into a more management-focused role, but just so that
works.
Yeah. So could you just talk a little bit on that in terms of debunking the myth that it no longer works? I think people are still worried about the whole Section 21 and all that kind of thing.
Well, Section 24.
Sorry, yeah.
Section 24.
I told you knows his stuff.
Of the Finance Act. It's very much personal circumstance. So I was advised to invest in a limited company because that's the way forward and tax efficiency and all that. It's not worked out for me. It was bad advice at the time.
Really?
Yeah. Mainly because...
Do you know how many people are starting off they're newbie investors and setting up a limited company before they've even viewed a property?
Yeah, well, that was
because
me.
Okay.
No, I do own some flats in my personal name, and I do own some flats in a limited company. And the one thing that I was talking to someone earlier on the phone today about this as well, who wanted to copy my strategy, and I said, "Yeah, great, go for it." But I said I wouldn't incorporate to buy ex-local authority flats because it's a very niche market, and the number of lenders is actually very limited. Full stop. And then you go, "Oh, I'm investing in limited," and that's even more limited. And you invest in a limited company, you're limited with lenders. Not every lender, and there's one that lends if you own the flat in your personal name, but they won't lend to you if you own it in a company name. I'm like, well, what's that all about?
Yeah.
So you're seriously restricted, and I'm paying double the rate in my limited company. So I manage a flat for a friend. I help source him, do this flat. He's paying something like 1.39% on his mortgage, and I'm paying at least double that on the cheapest mortgage I've got because I'm in a limited company. Because the lenders have just gone, hang on, you're making a saving there. Oh, I can claw that back, can't I? So they're just taking the money.
Gosh.
Absolutely. So it's not always wise to incorporate, and it's better to pay the tax and have a choice of lender, in my opinion. Because guess what? Like
when rates change, and
yeah, and I started this gig 4 years ago with the ex-local authority flats, and at the time they said, well, there's a limited market for lenders now, but it's going to open up, and it didn't, basically. So I'm still stuffed with about 3 or 4 lenders that I bob around with. But one of them in particular was very poor. I could only go 65% loan to value, and it was like nearly 5% APR or something. It's an expensive mortgage. It's an expensive mortgage for low leverage. It's really poor. So yeah, and if I owned it in my personal name, the world is my oyster.
But do you think that's because it was ex-local stuff, you were so niche?
It's a niche market. I mean, look, any buy-to-let will still work in London, in Gibraltar, in wherever, right? But I think in London especially, the days where you could just buy a flat, rent it out, forget about it, make money, they're gone.
Yeah.
You have to add value. So if you're buying a 1-bed, make it into a 2-bed. Increase the capital value, increase the rental value. So when I take a 3-bed and make it a 4-bed, I'm instantly increasing the rental price by 33%, like ignoring any sort of refurbishment. Even if it's in the same condition, you're instantly increasing. Stud wall, move the kitchen sink, you're done, right? Before you've even done anything. And then obviously you go and then kit it out nicely, and then you increase the value further. But you can't just buy a new build flat and hope for money. It just doesn't work. Service charges will eat you up, ground rent will eat you up, management fees will eat you up. You need to be adding value. So when you buy, stamp duty is very prohibitive, and that's why a lot of my friends do like lease options or joint ventures with owners. They set a ballpark figure and they go, right, we're going to add value and we're going to split the profit, that sort of thing, because you avoid the stamp duty. Stamp duty kills them.
Assisted sale?
Assisted sale model, yeah. So assisted sale, JV, whatever you want to call it. It really helps because you don't have to pay the stamp duty.
Okay. So you heard it here first. Buy-to-let isn't dead. It does work, but you have to be smart about it and you have to add value. So if people want to follow you and keep up with your journey, where's best to reach you?
Well, we'll pop it on the screen as well, but I've got the claphampropertyblog.com, so if you want to read my articles and that sort of thing, you can subscribe to that. I'm on Instagram, Down to South London, and I've got the podcast, which is Down to South London as well, and obviously the usual Facebook, LinkedIn, not Twitter, because I'm not 79 and I don't use Twitter.
I deleted my app the other day, so I don't use it. I think the last time I used it was last year's Love Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But I deleted it now, and I don't watch Love Island anymore.
Good.
I'm done with it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been amazing.
It's been
absolutely
really cool
amazing.
discussing
Great value added. Unfortunately, guys, that is it for this video. I hope you find it really useful. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for new content every week. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.